add this information to your everyday lives so that it can benefit you. We do have a guest speaker today who will be coming on. However, myself, Aaliyah Johnson Roberts, and Dr. Obiama Martin are here as usual. We show up every first and third Thursday at 2 p.m. So we are excited about today to continue this conversation. And I wanted to start off with really transparency, because we said that we were going to have real conversations with real people and offering real resources. And I think it's timely because we talk about education, we talk about childcare, and we're talking about finances. And sometimes we don't connect things that happen to us or with us or in our programs in a general basis and associate them with finances. So I'll be sharing this for the first time with Dr. Obiama Martin and you guys as well. And let us know if you can relate and we can have this conversation. But I kind of want to go over this before Mr. Steve comes on. But so yesterday, I actually was not at the center the majority of the day. I was coming in, staff knew I was coming in late, and came in, had a short meeting, and then I was told that the Commonwealth was here. So I'm like, okay, the state is here. So she says, how are you today? And I said, well, it depends. It depends. How may I help you? Because we typically only see you one time per year. But she proceeded to tell us about a complaint. So with the Department of Human Services, if there is a complaint, then they are required to come out and investigate it. No problem. Come in my office. So we're having the conversation, and she's sharing the complaint, and it is around discriminatory child discharge. So as if we discharge a family, they weren't happy about it, and it was discriminatory. So I'm like, no, we haven't had any discharges. So luckily, we have a system. We have systems in place. It shows when children are enrolled. It shows when they're discharged. So we walked to my enrollment specialist so that we could, so that she could share the information and take a look in the system. So she followed me. There was no prepping or anything of that nature. So, she asked her about any discharges, because we actually meet about it weekly. So we talk about any new children, any discharges. We have a report. And she said, no, we haven't had any since December. And that was actually because the children weren't coming anymore after the pandemic. So, so we're like, no, are you sure this is for us? So she's saying too, it is confusing. So she didn't have any additional details about an age group, a child, anything. So she said, okay, well, we'll just go around. I'll go around to the classroom, make sure you're in ratio, and make sure, active supervision. This is where I related to finance, because something as simple as, it's not that simple, but something that brings about the state to our programs, if we are not prepared and have particular systems in place, that could get us shut down, a violation, which could impact all of the other funding sources that we have, which is not okay. So I willfully, we walked around to each classroom, and basically what she does is she asks each teacher their name, the age group of the children, and who they're responsible for. This is something that we have gone through. We created an extensive process around it. I feel like we should talk about in depth at another time, because it is so huge. It's definitely around health and safety. So, we went through that whole process. We have 11 classrooms. We went around to every one of them. So, we got through there. Now, one classroom did have floaters. One classroom had floaters in there, so they were not the typical classroom. They had it was a little pause, a tad bit of confusion, if you will, but more so because both teachers named the same child. Their numbers were right, everything. But, so I really had to advocate for them. I'm like, no, they are great teachers. They know their stuff. They were nervous, so we went back to that classroom. I said, guys, how many children you're responsible for? Point them out, say their names. They did that. all set and ready. She came back, had about 20 more minutes of conversation just about life and being a parent because she just had a baby. But so all of that was fine and good, unfounded, no issues. However, we always take all of the circumstances that happen and we just make sure that we circle back with our staff, have those conversations, and make sure that we improve continuously. That's a continuous quality improvement. However, I said to myself and my team, had we not been ready, it would have been a huge impact to not only our program, the staff, the children, the community. It really, because supervision is a huge deal with your licensing. So yeah, I definitely wanted to bring that up today because sometimes, I don't want to just talk about the cute stuff, the pretty finance stuff that's, related to QuickBooks or bank statements or financial statements. Sometimes we need to talk about those systems that we have in place that either saves us money, reduces liabilities, reduces expenses, and really keep us set up as a strong program. So I wanted to share that too, because I want you guys to know that, again, these are real conversations, being transparent with you guys. And I hope that you can share stories as well that we could all take back to our programs and just improve them.
So, Aaliyah, I want to jump in on this and kind of break it down a little further on the financial part, because too oftentimes, for those of you who are not in the field as of yet and don't really understand this financial piece, this is what it looks like in real time. When you don't budget in the beginning for extra staff, and you have extra children that you were not prepared to enroll, and the state walks out.
Yes.
You are already on a provisional license. See, back in the day, you wasn't on a provisional license. And back in the day, when I was helping people open up, they had these warehouses and all of this space, and they did not plan for the enrollment. They thought that it was going to be a slower process. And in 30 days, they was filling up and could not find the staff, but was taking children and got shut down. So the point that you're making is so vitally important. We have to make sure, and you all who are in this space, you want to get in this space, you're starting out, maybe you want to scale, you want to improve. Do not neglect the budget, okay? Do not neglect the budget, because if Aaliyah, and it's so funny because we were having a conversation, I guess maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, or whatever, and you was spending a whole day or two going over your budget.
Yes.
Right. And so, like, your budget will make and break the quality of your program. And so much to your point, the state can walk in at any time, announced or unannounced. And the way that you are financially set up is going to determine whether you can move forward or not. Because in some instances, again, back in the day, they might give you 30 days, but today, not so much. And so if they gave you that leniency of the 30 days and you don't have the money to course correct, you're going to be shut down, right? If they don't give you the 30 days and they shut you down, you don't have the money to get a lawyer. Like, however we spend this, it comes down to the money. And a lot of times people want to cut corners. Lee, I tell you this all the time. People want to cut corners to save $1. And I just think that that's coming from a scarcity mindset and not a growth mindset, because when you get into this business, yes, it can be profitable, but it costs to be in this business. Absolutely. It is expensive to be in this business. I think it's more liability than any other thing, because at any given time, you can be shut down. Absolutely. And that's the cost. And people just look at, like you said, all of the shiny. No. You better get with this budget. You better make sure that you better make sure you got payroll sitting like 3 to 6 months.
Absolutely.
Right? People don't want to talk about that part.
Mhm.
When we talk about this money, no, your payroll need to be sitting 3 to 6 months because you don't know when something is going to get delayed. You don't know when something is going to get help. Come on, and you know, because you're dealing with all these different funding streams, and they don't pay all the time like they say that they're going to pay. And if you waiting for that next contract check to drop and it don't, and you still got to pay these staff and still got to pay rent. Come on, y'all. We got to do better.
Yep.
We got to do better because and talk about this part. If you have not set up a business credit account, you can't even get a line of credit to hold you.
Right. Especially in this field, especially in our industry, which is why we have to be financially savvy and know, like we have to be knowledgeable. And it's about, right, understanding and knowing the regulations, finances, and systems, having them set up like they're all related. They are all related. And when you mentioned earlier about staffing, so we always, I don't want to say we always have, but especially we all know the staffing is difficult right now. We typically have a full-time floater because we never know, if not more than one, because we don't know when someone is out sick, especially we just got over COVID. You just have no idea what's going to take place. So we always have additional staff ready to be trained, being a mentor, being in a classroom where there is a mentor, and prepared to be in classrooms and to support, and not just a body, but trained and ready to go and to continue on the high quality programming, because we don't know. And that has to be added into the budget. It has to into the staffing. As soon as we have one additional child in the class, so that one classroom I was speaking of had 11 children in it, right? So, so we have 11 children, but we needed 2 staff, even though the primary staff who are in that classroom was not there that day, which is an extreme. That's another important part, is that even when your regular teaching staff are not in the classroom, those teachers who are filling in and are floaters, they need to be aware of the systems of that classroom as well.
So for the listening audience, because I know, but I'm not going to assume that those that are listening know, what's the ratio and how old were the children?
They were preschool children. So they were 3 to 5.
And what's the ratio?
1 to 10.
1 to 10. And I say that because there may be some people who are watching from a different state, and the ratio is different.
Absolutely.
And the ratio is different. And so you definitely want to make sure that you are not just kind of winging it status quo. You have to plan for expansion, and it's going to cost you, these are the things that I know when I started out, when you started out, people didn't tell you. You had to learn this because you didn't know how important that budget was starting out. You didn't know.
Nope.
And you didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
And regardless of how many classes we've taken, this is real field, hands-on.
Yes.
Let me invest in a floater. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck in the classroom. Me, the CEO, going to be stuck in the classroom.
Exactly. There you go. That's it. We have to be prepared. We have to. And I personally, I don't have time to like shuffle around and get all right. The state walks in, that's that. Your program is going to be reflective in that moment of how you typically work. And that's just what that is. So what I'm also going to do, because continuous quality improvement, we are going to have, because it was staff who were nervous, rightfully so, we're going to have, in addition to fire drills, which we are required to do, we're not going to continue to, we as an industry need to stop just being prepared for what we are required to do, but go above and beyond that. But it's all kinds of drills that we can have, including active supervision drills, during fire drills, or what do you call it? Intruder, active shooter outdoors, things like that, where, or even having someone that staff don't necessarily know asking active supervision questions and make sure that we're always prepared, because we don't know what will happen. We don't. So we want to be prepared and make sure that our staff are prepared as well. So, I thought that was really timely to share with you guys. So I wanted to share my current experience. And I did give Mr. Steve a time to join us, and he honored that time and is here. So I don't want to keep him waiting too long. I'm going to bring in Mr. Steve Goldflam.
Hello.
Wow. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you well.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaliyah.
No problem.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Martin.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yes.
Oh, it's
yes.
my pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you. I'm so excited that you got to join us. I just shared a story with them that was related to our childcare industry as well as finance. It was definitely finance related. Just to share with you guys, Mrs. Steve actually was referred to me, and we spoke about that in one of our previous episodes where we said get a referral, right? So someone referred him, and after we had the Goldman Sachs, after I graduated from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, they spoke a lot about having a relationship with your financial advisors, your accountant, CPA. And I realized that while I had been a part of the bank that I was with for a long time, I didn't necessarily have a close relationship with them. So I wanted a close relationship with my accountant, CPA, where we could have conversations. They could understand where we were, where we wanted to go. So it was right on time. And we had a meeting. We also spoke about childcare, because we did end up caring for Mr. Steve's granddaughter, that was an honor. But yes,
It was a precious time.
So thank you for entrusting her with us. But that's how we met. It's been great. It's been great. So
thank
Steve,
you. Thanks.
Introduce yourself.
Wow. So I lost that last question there or whatever, but I'm here. I'm in Philadelphia, and I'm here to just go kind of take your questions. You gave me some ideas to share about finances, really accounting. So my disclaimer is I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a financial advisor. So it's here as like a tax professional, kind of providing some insights into Profit First. I'm technically not even a Profit First professional. I've just used it in combination with three key books that really help business owners just grow, be profitable, and then be sustainable. And Profit First is from Mike Michalowicz, and he has a whole series of books that I'd recommend to every business owner. He just keeps like one step ahead of the time. So as an accountant, there's this training that you have, and then Profit First comes along and wants to reverse it. So some people call it like a shift. What we had to do over the last couple of years in terms of COVID or challenges in the daycare industry or any business, and everybody says let's accept the challenge, but then we got to pivot. And Profit First, it kind of gives you this context of taking care of yourself first, or at least paying yourself first before you pay all your suppliers, all your vendors, all your expenses. And I invite you, while we're here on the phone, since this is live, like you get to see everybody. So the anybody that wants an image of this, they can always text me or message me. It's through the cell or the CPA game, any of the website. But the image is the real image of here's your hand. And every time in daycare or elementary school, we would always be at the Thanksgiving, and they tell you, oh, can you draw your hand? So today, in 3 minutes or less, I'm trying to figure out how to do this with my hand, but you grab your thumb, and your thumb represents like tithing yourself. And Profit First devises, you could think of it old school, like 5 envelopes. Tithe yourself. And you go to the website, they'll give you an assessment where you can actually do the whole thing. So I use a hand as an example. And then when the client's in the office, I have them draw the whole kind of image like a turkey and say, tithe to yourself, here, make sure that you either measure your payroll or your marketing. These are for business owners. If you're not a business owner, maybe it's something for retirement, but you're not touching the savings, you're tithing it to yourself. You're making sure that your payroll's being covered. And it could be percentages. You just got to come up with those percentages. And then taxes, that's the big one. And then yourself. So all business owners, I think we all want, 1,000 a month, 10,000 a month before or after taxes. So here with your ring finger, you're kind of grabbing that percentage for yourself. And ideally, you have enough left over. I have to get this coordination right with the camera, but you have enough left over to just basically pay your expenses. And I'd come back to both of you. I don't know all the intricacies of each of your businesses, but if you use the daycare model, it's like, oh, what happened in the last 2 years, and then how are we going to plan ahead, through these challenges over the next couple of years. And that's where I would go with your accountant, CPA, and maybe financial advisor. Start, with the 5 fingers and have 5 different bank accounts or 5 different envelopes, 5 different ways of keeping the money separate. Because we all know, and he uses a great example, it's like if you're sitting at the Thanksgiving table and here's your pool of money sitting in the palm of your hand, or the pool of food, you're just going to eat it all. So that's probably the one lesson. Don't eat it all. Tie something to yourself first and don't touch it.
Wow. I love that. I love that. We definitely need to hear that. No one is teaching that. No one is teaching that. That was a great principle.
Yes.
Great.
Mr. Steve.
And go to his, I'm sorry to interrupt, just go to his YouTube or his, you can learn it in 18 minutes or less. Buy his book. It's a Profit First print. It's really well received. I have 2 examples. Just one's a hairstylist, one's a IT consultant. One created a spreadsheet. One does it manually like a ledger. But they use that as an example, and I think any business owner could create like a basic budget and kind of use those 5 folders to hold where their money is.
I love that. It does. And I remember you literally did have me draw a hand the first time we met. We spoke. That was the first time I heard about Profit First. And that's exactly what I mean by that's what I was looking for in a financial advisor, was to be able to dig deeper than what we typically talk about. We know we set tuition rates and we know about our expenses, and that's kind of what we focus on, but we don't have these conversations about understanding our money or even setting ourselves up to be successful. So I was so excited to learn about it. I ordered the book right away, and I'm actually in another group that we're reading it right now, literally. So I'm reading it again. I'm reading it again. So
practice it with all your students. You just sit there and have all the 5-year-olds draw them. That's my invention, anyway.
I'm going to put a pencil in that too, Mrs. C, because I have to tell you about a summer camp program we're planning, and it'll be extremely helpful to the program we're going to do. So our school-age children will learn it this summer. They'll be learning.
Yes, love it.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you, could you tell us how, so a lot of people would have just been hearing about it the first time. I'll share the link so that they can order the book, as well as check out the information. They can learn about it quickly. But what's an easy way for someone to be able to literally start? Do they need to read the book first? Or are there some?
He says, read the book. Yeah, he just says, read the book, go right through the whole thing. But then, at least start. I say to everybody, make that commitment to tithe yourself, that 1 to 10%. Just that experience gives you this feeling of abundance. And most of us as business owners, myself included, there's moments when you feel like, oh, where's the next dollar coming from? Where's the next you could say grant, where's the next monthly fee coming, where's the next pool of money coming from? So it just gives you an experience. Like if you just make that commitment today and just say, all right, the next time I get paid, and at least once a week, or we recommend twice a month, shift 1% up to maybe 10% into savings, and you can't touch it, no matter how good that clothing sale is, or the the good deal is that money stays separate from the rest of your business expenses.
Got you. So one thing I don't want to assume that everyone has done, in order for you to pay yourself first, in regards to how Profit First discusses it, do you need to be on payroll? And what are the benefits of you having yourself on payroll? Because I can imagine a number of people may be covering expenses and paying their employees, but not themselves as the owner.
Sure. So I can use, even myself as an example where, over the years, it's been like, 25 years. It was a business that my father had. I was kind of his apprentice for 6 years. And then all of a sudden he passes on and I'm just there as a sole proprietor. So there was no payroll. It was pretty much just me. And I got married. My wife, she helped me, it's kind of like just, we did it all ourselves. And then as the business grew, you just want to take some salary for yourself. And again, my disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, but usually the lawyers recommend, at least from the tax side, if your business is producing a 40, 60, maybe $80,000 profit as kind of a benchmark, put yourself on payroll, shift from being, a sole proprietor to some level of, they'll say like a corporation, like an S corporation. And you do have to give yourself a paycheck. And that paycheck could be something that represents your own monthly needs. Could be $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, but it's not the full profit. So the idea of putting yourself on payroll, you may get a paycheck, let's say for $40,000, but you actually get profit maybe of $60,000, $80,000, $100,000. So that 15% self-employment tax, you don't have to pay that on that profit. You do have to draw the money out, but it's considered a distribution. But you start in phases. Start shifting from the sole proprietor to a legal entity. It could be an LLC treated as an S corporation, and then make that S corporation start with a payroll service, or doesn't have to be, but the payroll service is usually the most efficient way. And they would do a paycheck to yourself that's equivalent to either what someone else would be paid in your level, or your basic needs that you're drawing out of the company, maybe to pay your mortgage and your household expenses, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month.
Okay. Dr. Obi, I'm
So
have a question.
the other advantage is you're current in some level with your taxes too. So most of us as sole proprietors are kind of, oh, I'm not paying these estimated payments. Oh, this way I'm actually paying taxes almost every other week, because we usually do bi-weekly payroll.
Yeah, no, I just was going to say that I love that strategy. It's something that I adopted last year, Steve. And for the savings part of it, because I am not, in full transparency, great with saving. I'm great with spending, but not with saving. So what I did was I used the payroll company to also save by investing in an IRA. So then it's an automatic, withdrawal. And they was doing a special last year where if you invested in an IRA, you didn't have to pay the initial $1,500 or whatever it is to usually open it up, that you could open it up without that. So I took advantage of that. So that's just another great benefit for those that want to get started, but really not sure, because the IRA, I'm not going to touch that money. If I see that money in my savings account, I'm going to be tempted, because that muscle is not strong. But in the IRA, I don't see it.
Right.
It's gone.
So
It's really gone.
Yeah. And that's definitely something we in our industry, again, typically don't, save for, whether it's retirement or not. We just don't save for later and invest that money. We've been offering simple IRA for years, and it took some time to get staff to start enrolling in it. And I do understand it from a standpoint of, we need to talk about worthy wages and adequate wages. And some may feel like they, don't have the additional funds to invest it. But I also believe it's mindset. We do have to get to a point where, and you mentioned it earlier, Mrs. Steve, in regards to an abundance mindset and not one of lack. So, that's another thing we need to work on. But we will, because profit first, we're going to pay ourselves first. And we're so used to taking care of others, right? We're like,
Mhm.
for so many years, especially, I talk about mom and we'll have her on. But it was how can we put this money back and improve the program for our children and families, which is great. But we do need to take care of ourselves as well. So thank you for that. I do know that you have some childcare programs that you work with or owners
Sure.
that you work with. Are you able to tell us maybe some deductions or some things related to our industry that we may not know that we could use as deductions, or even have the ability to increase our profits somehow?
Wow. So that's like one of those loaded questions. There's a lot there. So I would start with the first thing that came to mind when you shared it would be, where we're talking now is like working with that. It could be internal bookkeeper, accountant, and come up with some type. I know Aaliyah and I talked about many times where it's like a tally sheet. So the bottom line is the top line, okay, and the top line is maximizing income. So how are we going to maximize it? And there's really only three ways. It's just in the daycare business, there's only so much time that you're open. There's only so many students that are capacity. So if you're just in that one daycare business or one building, all you can really do is increase the number of students and try to get to the maximum. But the goal always is the marketing effort or the branding effort to bring in the best. That is not my forte, but that's just my experience of saying, whatever you're doing, and Aaliyah, you talked to me about it a few times. It's just the idea of in the last 2 years, we've had this roller coaster ride where in the daycare business, all the parents are home, and not everybody, but they're home, and then where's the student? Where's the children? They're home with them. They're not coming to daycare. Or now they want to bring them back, but there's no staffing. So regardless of what's going on, you are in control of the marketing efforts to bring in that finite maximum students, and even have maybe a waiting list, but that all of the kind of like the ducks are in order. So as a tax person or tax professional, I like to make sure your taxes are current. But as a marketing side, you're building a base of families that, as we started the call, recommend you. They give you nice reviews. They know that people in the community want to show up there, and you've sat down, and we've done this a few times, and said, all right, if I'm on Pratt Street, or I'm on Bustleton, whatever, like, I know that this is the maximum I could do based on the hours that I'm open. And from there, then we can shift into kind of a budget or like a break-even point to see what is, if I'm doing 100% capacity, 80% capacity, what's my profit there? And then make sure that I focus that as the highest priority. And then when you're looking at kind of the budget, I know QuickBooks makes it really easy. There's plenty of templates that you have to create just for doing all the different grants that you do, but create a budget that you review monthly. And if there's something out of whack, you're trying to see what expense really took you off course. But you've got to be willing to pause and do that. And it's kind of it's a feeling that I get, is that my role is there to just ask the client to stop and pause so they could see what is the income side, is there growth, is there profits, and then from that look at the comparison of the expenses and see what expenses is kind of out of whack. There's no like one tax break. We come up with the top 10 tax tips. Okay, so at the you own a building. There's many, sorry, you inhabit, you could own a building. So any business owner could own a building. So real estate's always a great angle. So that's usually at the top of the list, is like, do I want to own a building that supports the service that I'm in? And does it make sense? Sometimes it's too big of a stretch. Number two would be the things that we talked about, like you like to travel. So it's like, oh, okay, if I'm going to travel, I came out to Boulder. I'm in Boulder today. My daughter's 40th birthday was yesterday. I have a 3-month-old grandson that I met for the first time. And it was just a beautiful experience. It actually gives you a space to slow down and pause and reflect. But while you're here, I was able to work with this nonprofit and do some kind of like a mini board meeting, and it was part of a little bit of the plan, but at least it becomes somewhat of a tax deductible event. So if you plan out your trip to wherever, do it in a way that it can be a tax break to you. The other angles is just more or less the things that you talked about, Dr. Martin, is like, out of those funds, you created those funds. So do you want to put it into a pre-tax program? Do you want to do a post-tax program? Everybody's tax return is unique. So I call it, here's your fingerprint. And then if I had a 1040 over here, it's unique to each of us. It's not the same. But the financial side, you could choose maybe just a simple Roth account. Or we were reading the article in the office the other day, and the ladies knew this one woman that, I just don't remember her name, but she was talking about how she rose to, $1 million company, and she hired her children, and they laid out the whole steps on, how they were able to hire the children. And I said to everybody in the office, I said, they're all in their 20s. Well, this is what you could do later on in your life, or at least advise the other clients that come in there who would fit that example. And then they're building wealth for the children, especially now that the tax rate, like the actual standard deduction, is so high. You've got this $12,000 pool of money that you're probably giving to your teenage kids. Maybe there's a way to put them on payroll too. So it kind of blends with your. So those are a couple ideas that could help. And we just go through a 10-point checklist and see if they apply. Each business, it can work and some doesn't.
Gotcha. It's interestingly, I did a live last night, a finance live, and we spoke about that with the paying our children and tax deduction. I was looking at my, I already told my 10-year-old, the TikTok queen, she was going to help me with some social media things and do some scanning and all that. So we're going to take advantage of that as well. That was really, I definitely wanted to make sure that people understood profit first and some things that they could implement in their businesses now. What you shared with us has been amazing. I don't want to take too much of your time. I think we should, do things that's digestible as well. So I want to make sure that we can follow up, share the resources, because that's a lot. Pay yourself first. That's a lot. We need to be able to get there. So I don't want to pack too much. Did you want to say something?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great starting point. Just that first step, just one step, and then you'll take the next one and the next one. And you've done it. I mean, just being able to work together. You continue to rise. You continue to expand. You continue to look at ways to make. Really, it's the quality of your life as best as possible. But what my experience is, just showing up, picking up the granddaughter, is that it's it's infused throughout all the people that are there in the daycare, and you've been able to create that environment. So it's a really blessed educational, enhancing their quality of life too. So thank you. It's great.
Thank you.
Great work you did.
Thank you. That's the investment. All of that's the investment so, that we spent time on, and that's really the work that we're doing, even with this podcast. Honestly, is we're giving stories even now. I just gave one from yesterday, but we're trying to share stories with other childcare owners or entrepreneurs that we experience so many different things every day. But as a unit, we can build together. We can improve the quality of our lives, impact children, families, and the community. And my goal too is really to marry our passion in childcare and working with children and families, but make it profitable and have strong business systems. And sometimes I think we separate the two. We may not focus so much on business and profits and things like that because we love the service that we do, but we could do both. So that's really the goal. And that's what we're going to get to as an industry, so that we can advocate more for the industry, get paid what we're worth because we are business owners. And we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And so as we get ready to bring this to a close, just kind of going back to what we said last week about who you need to know, so Mr. Steve, what is your title?
I'm a tax professional, owner of Steve Goldflam and Associates, and I actually created a new corporation this year to bring in 2 new accountants called QualLife Inc. So it's our way of enhancing the quality of life for all while we do that kind of fingerprint tax return, the one of a kind that belongs to each of you or whoever shows up in the office there.
Awesome. Can you share your contact information? How can people get in contact with you? Because I'm sure not only was this show very beneficial, but I know as well as Aaliyah, we get asked, can you refer a good accountant all the time? I'm always getting someone asking me that. And so just being able to, be a resource and say, you can contact Mr. Steve at such and such, 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 and he can, be a resource for you. So in terms of budgeting for those that are listening, you have to budget for a tax professional before you need one.
It's a line item.
It's a line item.
And yeah, it does. It is important. And it's just having a set of checks and balances. I was noticing being out here, there's no way to really know what's going on unless there's some dialogue, some communication back and forth. And I'll just, do my best over the phone, in person, whatever works for the client to make sure that their questions are answered and they're clear to move the next step, whatever that is, what it for them. They can always reach me through the website, the CPA game. It's just like CPA GAME, and the phone number 215-695-0108. They can always find it on Google or the website www.cpa.
Oh, is your phone ringing? Sometimes it'll mute you. We can't hear you. I think so. The website, right? www.cpagame.com.
And his phone number.
Yes. So what I'll do, I'll make sure when I post a video, I will post Mr. Steve's information to make sure that you guys can contact him. Every time we have a conversation, it is amazing. The conversation is so inspirational. He leaves the office every time, and I've learned something new. So I think he's trying to join back.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you both. Really, I think it was a perfect segue, but thank you both. I'll get to learn more if you do this regularly, we'll come and everybody listen so we can, learn how this whole world works, and especially the children. We all need your guidance, Aaliyah, and your staff. The children, Lily will never be the same.
We
just loves
her.
everybody there. Thank you.
So, and I hadn't shared, but
Dr. Martin, thank you.
Thank you. I'll be reaching out.
I will contact you because again, we hadn't even released it, but we're working on Campreneur. So we're going to work on allowing our children to think as business owners based on what their desires are. So I'm sure if you're able, I'll reach out and see if there's any way that you could share your accounting expertise, because we may have children who would love to be an accountant. And a lot of times our children don't know what they are good at or what they would want to do because they haven't had the opportunity to do so. So this summer, we're going to have such a great time. So we'll talk more about that, but thank you so much again. Thank you, Dr. Obiama Martin.
Yes.
Usual. This has been great conversation. I hope it was helpful. Again, you can contact me at Instagram is Consulting with AJR. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm actually going to be coming out with an ebook. We're going to wrap all this information up into an ebook so that you have something in your hands and you could utilize. And it real stuff, not make-believe stuff, but things that we need to think about every day in our businesses that can impact the work that we do on a higher level, and make sure that we are business owners as well as passionate early childhood education leaders. So
yes.
Impact. Thank you.
All right. Bye. See you next time.
Bye, guys.